So, The Last of Us is more popular than ever thanks to the incredible TV show that's currently airing right now. And as I'm going through the story, I really want to replay part one and part two again, just so I can kind of familiarize myself with that story. But I want to talk about The Last of Us Part Three. It obviously hasn't been confirmed, but we know it's coming at some point. I mean, especially after this TV show, I think The Last of Us, it's already we're already seeing boosts in sales from the games. Like they're up like 200, 300%, which is insane and genius of Sony to put out that Part One remake remaster on the PS5 because that was a $70 game now. It's got this boosted sales, so super smart. But I want to talk about part three and what I think or how I think the story is going to go. So if you guys have not played part one or are concerned about the TV show or haven't played part two, come back to this video later and we'll discuss it. Take a little sip of my little Captain and Coke. Um, but so my obviously Last of Us Part One, I think one of the greatest stories ever told in games. I think it's truly magnificent, right? And obviously part two was gameplay was improved, like everything about the gameplay itself was improved, and the story was super divisive. I was on the side that I liked the story. Obviously, I hated the fact that Joel died, and then they immediately have you play as Abby is insane. And then just how that story ends, and you're Ellie, and you go and try to get your revenge on Abby and end up saving her, and then her and Lev go on and to rejoin the Fireflies or whatever the case is. I think as much as I love Ellie as a character, um, Tommy, Dina, I think I'm done with them. I think I'm done with that story itself. I don't want to see a part three where I don't know. Tommy's kind of wrecked. I mean, he's by the end of part two, I mean, he got shot in the head. So I mean, he's not walking very well. So I don't think there would be a game where you play as him necessarily. But I don't want to see like Dina's babe get killed or something, and you guys go like on another revenge story. I think that's done. I think the way they ended it with part two, where Ellie was able to just let it go and not necessarily forgive, I guess, but she didn't fall into that endless cycle of revenge. Obviously, we know that story. What I really really want, and I kind of blame this on, in a good way, from the TV show where we're getting all these little snippets of, um, the pre-apocalypse where the last where we got the stuff with Sarah, and in the '60s where they're talking about the cordyceps and how they could you know evolve and be able to thrive in humans. And then obviously the scene where we got the scientist, um, where she's talking about bombing the city and all that stuff. I think what I want, and there's a good chance that, how crazy would it be? And I don't know if Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog is going to leave the cards very close to the table as far as like what the story goes. But how insane would it be if you pick the game up part three, pick it up right after Sarah's death, and you play through maybe I don't know, the entire 20 years, but maybe obviously you skip around at points, and I don't know how much of a story they can fit in to where it would be as memorable as part one and part two were. But I would love to see Joel before he meets Ellie, him and Tommy, running things, doing like the jobs and stuff, and then maybe gets to the point where him and Tommy split up, and Tommy joins the Fireflies, and Joel does his own thing, and obviously have a cool ending and something like that, or maybe, um, sorry, I've got some gameplay in the background, but maybe just we learn what Joel did throughout those 20 years, and probably see him like be a real like badass, and probably even a dirtbag, because obviously he lost Sarah, so he has really nothing else to live for, right? So I think that could be a really interesting story, and I would trust Naughty Dog to find some interesting things to tell within that 20 years. Again, and again, they can find a way to, to turn it in to part one, or to tie into part one, a Koi to do that or something like that. I'm not quite sure how they would do that, where like the ending would be like a huge bang, go out with a bang or something like that. But I think they could introduce co-op for the first time in The Last of Us, where you play as Joel and Tommy. You guys do your thing, whatever the case is. I don't know. I don't know if I would want an open world necessarily, but maybe give us the little snippets like you did in part two, where you get kind of like the open hub, and maybe there's like a hub area, like a town that you start out in. I don't know exactly how they would do it. I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would want The Last of Us in open world for the whole game. I think that would maybe be a little bit too much, but I think that could be very cool. I don't think we can do a Last of Us game. I mean, we could like a spinoff or something else, or maybe just characters. Characters on there, like completely new characters. Maybe we can get that, but then you wouldn't call it a part three, right? It would just be The Last of Us something something. So I would really like to see the 20 years that we didn't see with Joel and Tommy and all that stuff. I think that could be a really interesting story. Um, yeah, I think they could. I think they could do some really cool things where, it's right as the apocalypse starting, so we can get some really cool idea of how it spread. Maybe Joel and Tommy have to escape a city because of the bombings, uh, stuff like that. You get obviously enemy wise. Maybe humans necessarily wouldn't be the enemies, and obviously as the years go on, you can then add in humans and the infected that have been infected for a while, and you get um, the bloaters and the clickers and stuff like that. Because obviously from the very beginning of the outbreak, you're only going to get like the basic like fast infected. So like, that's the way that you could introduce the new infected as time goes on, and learn as they go, because they obviously don't have that knowledge of what these new infected are. So I think that could be really cool. Um, Again, I trust Naughty Dog with that story. I think they could do something really cool with that time period. I It's hard for me to imagine a Last of Us game without Ellie or Joel in it. But obviously Joel's dead, so you do something in the future. You've got to do something in the past or something like that. So, and I think if they do a part three and you play as Abby and maybe go on, like do her journey onto the Fireflies to get to that Firefly base that they talk about in the end of the game, I don't know if fans would enjoy that, and you don't play as like Ellie at all, or maybe you play like a snippet of Ellie. I don't really know how they do it. I mean, obviously they could. I mean, people liked Abby, but a lot of people didn't because of what she did to Joel. So I don't know if that would be the right move, but they took a huge risk in part two with playing as both Ellie and Abby. So I mean, they've already done it once, so they could definitely do it again. But I think showing us something in the past would be a little bit more interesting to me. But I don't know. I could really see it either way. But I think it'd be cool to at least experience some of that stuff in the past, just because that's my favorite parts of like zombie shows and zombie stories. Is not 20 or 30 years in the future. I like to see the apocalypse starting. I like to see everyone screaming and freaking out, and no one knows what's going on and stuff like that. I think that is a really cool idea of a story. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Would you want to play part three as just Abby or partially Abby like we did in part two? Do you think my idea is cool with playing as Joel in the past and Tommy, and maybe even doing like the full game co-op? Let me know what you guys think. If you're this far in the video, you might as well give it a thumbs up. You might as well subscribe to the channel if you can. That would be awesome. We're almost at 200 followers, which is insane. Every either Sunday night, it just kind of depends on like how tired I am Sunday nights, but every either Sunday night or Monday morning, I'm gonna have a review of the Last of Us TV show. Just initial thoughts of the episode, and we also discuss that on my podcast, Gaming with the Broscast, every Monday. So yeah, go listen to that as well if you can. All right, guys, I am done talking. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank y'all so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Consider subscribing to the channel. I'll let YouTube algorithm pick one of my videos below for you guys to watch. Give it a click, and I hope you enjoy, and I will see you in the next video.